presentation. Today I will present about GRPC in Android. So my name is Thao. I'm working at the Trusting Social and I'm also the GD in Android. So before discuss about the GRPC, firstly I want to talk about the swap. So I want to talk about the communication between the server and client. So SWAP is one of the protocol. So SWAP is stand for Simple Object Access Protocol and it's backed by the XML data format. So SWAP is human readable and editable. So continually in the XML they had a DTD. DTD stands for Document Type Definition. So this is the sample DTD. So in here you will see that we define something like model, so that employee, and inside that model there are some attributes, and we define the data type. So DTD is very useful for validation and for service discovery and convert the schema to objects. For example, for a long time when I working with soft service, I can use some tools and they get the DTD file from the service URL and they convert it to the model, because in XML we have enough information for building the model. For example, model attribute, data type, something like that. Continuously, there are the second type named Restful Service. So Restful Service is using the JSON format, and also like the SWAP, they are the human readable and editable. And there are many libraries supporting Restful Service. And there are many tools supporting Restful Service too. So this is the, for example, this is the Bossman. So I think that we all know that tool. So this does mean that when you use the Restful Service, we are very easily for verifying the service. For example, using the Bossman, we don't need to add order another tools or coding something. We just pass URL, some enough data, and we get the data from the server. So QA can verify your response, and also you can verify that. But Restful has something not good. For example, we had true schema like this. So we will ask something. Firstly, in the first one, we are missing the field department. So we are really miss the field department or not? And in the second example, do we really miss the field years or not? We cannot say. If we have document, it's okay, but if we only read into that data, we cannot say anything, or both those fields is redundant. And maybe the data type is not true, we cannot say, because so Restful. So based on that, we are compare between the Restful and SWAP. So the Restful has something benefits. Firstly, it's more support in tools and libraries, and it's easy to iterate to some language such as JavaScript and Ruby. Why I say that it more support tools and libraries? Because parsing XML is painful in some language such as Python and Ruby. For example, the native library of the Python, they have some corner case that is fail or look forever, and this bug happened for many years, but no one fixed that. But for some language such as Java and Scala, parsing the XML is pretty good. So some modern language using or parsing the XML is very painful. And for example, if you use some script language such as JavaScript, Ruby, Python, the data optimization is automatically formatted into the model. So you use this directly. And not good is it cannot validate data, as I said before, because you in Restful Service we don't have the thing like SWAP DTD, so we cannot validate data, and cannot easily use from schema to the objects because same reason we miss the DTD. So continuously I will talk about RPC. RPC stands for Remote Procedural Code, and that means that you use programs and call the procedures on different address space, maybe on different network, different process, and we code it on a local code. That is the important things. I will explain later. So this is something in the RPC process. For example, when the line code, they will have a stop. Stop means that something that line interface you get from server and you generate the code, and it will go to this start and it go back again to the server. So for example, this is I will demo the. For example, this is a normal API code. You are making some local object, and then you prepare the params, and you call the API line, and you call the API, and get some response. You pass that response and checking the status, and somewhere else you define the host, port, and entry point. I think that many people see this familiar. So this is the normal API code when you use something such as Restful Service. But in RPC code, firstly, we define the method, the service on the server. This is the interface. For example, the server supports two methods. And then at the line, we create the persons. We set some attribute, and we call, for example, name update person name. It's very light that we are calling the local methods, but actually they are creating the request sending to server, and it all doing behind. So, but for example, if we call the methods that not defined on the server, we will meet the error. That's the RPC. So, continue. I say about the Protobuf. So, as we see that I am defined the schema, and this is the JSON file. What is the problem here? The problem here is there are many things duplicated. Here is the tag name. For example, you see that category name, image, URL, something like that. It duplicates. So because of that, the data is bigger. For the same for XML, the tag name is duplicated many times. So how can we optimize this data? So I can provide one way. For example, we will assume that the order of attribute will in that same order, and that means ID, category name, category description, something like that, and we give the data, and this format name CSV. So this demo means that the format of the XML and JSON is readable and editable. You very easily to read that, but in the performance viewpoint, it's not good when you transfer to a network when you handle large data. So because of that, we say that the output footprint of the JSON and XML is big and not efficiency for transferring data in some situations. So Protobuf, this is a definition on the website of Google. So it's language neutral, platform neutral. I will explain later why is that. And we can think that it's XML but smaller, faster, and similar. And it's in a binary format, and it's very efficiency for transferring data. For example, this is the benchmark of the Java to Java communications. That means the server is Java and the line is Java. And you see that the performance between the Protobuf and JSON is very huge. And this is when we don't use the line, we just see at the viewpoint the browsers. This is the compressed environment, not so big. So this is the example file of the Protobuf format. I will explain later. So what is GRPC? So GRPC, we can speak in the short term in a name that is a combination of Protobuf and RPC and made by Google. Originally made by Google, but now it's open source. So firstly, it's the RPC protocol. Secondly, we are transferring data using the Protobuf format. So we will learn the Protobuf for working with GRPC and made by Google. This is support in many languages. That means that as I said before, because GRPC is language neutral, what does it mean? This means that you define the model file, and you will use some command line or using some tools for converting back to your language. For example, if you use the Ruby, you must use the tool for convert your model GRPC file to the Ruby code. If you use Java, you must convert to Java code. So the benefit of GRPC is supported by many languages. For example, Java, Python, Ruby, Scala, Go, many languages. So we are not afraid that the client use some language and the server, the language is not support. So here is the picture, the general pictures. That means that we had a GRPC server, and we had a GRPC file, we generate that, and at the client we call that a GRPC stop. The stop means that we are define a method for calling to server, but we looking it like a local. We are calling on the local, but actually it will send to the network. It means that we call that a stop, and the request name proto request, and that will return the proto response. So because that GRPC is very suitable in the microservice system, because in the microservice system there are many components depend on others. So you maintain the interface is very hard. For example, if you use the Restful Service, when you change the method name, when you change the URL, you change some data, you must talk back to the developer at the client side, for example, like that. But in the GRPC, if you use GRPC, you will have a centralized repo for storing your model file, and server client use that repo. So when you modify something on repo, client will know, and it's a shell document. That means that based on that model, they are combined back and they can call to the server. So this is the sample GRPC Protobuf file. This is the service definitions. That means we are define some service, and they have a service name, the param, and the return type. So at the client, we will use that and generate the stuff, and client will call those methods. And on the server, this line interface, and we must implement that interface. This is the model. For example, here we define the model name, the just request and just ribbon, something like that. And here is the attribute. And if anyone here has experience in Protobuf version 2, will know that attribute here can be optional or required. But in Protobuf version 3, all are optional. Because by design, the designer of Protobuf think that the optional is better. Because when you make some field is required, you must keep that required forever. It's very painful for maintain that. So, for example, I will go to step by step for working with GRPC. So, firstly, you define the Protobuf file, as I said before. You can learn more about this grammar on the website. Secondly, as I said, that every client must use that model. It is a language neutral, and you generate it again back to your language that you use, maybe on server or maybe on client. For example, I use a GRPC to Ruby, and we will generate it. It will generate it into two files. And the first file is the model, and the second file is the service code. And at the step 3, we will create the GRPC from the generated code, something like that. Here is the Ruby code from the server. I use two languages, that's Ruby for server, and then it use Java for demo, that we can use different language for working with GRPC. So now we will come to the Android part. Firstly, in the build.radar file, we define the Protobuf radar plugin. Why we use that plugin? As I said before, this step, we must generate the Protobuf file into your language. So if you don't use that radar plugin, you must generate by hand. But if you use that plugin, you don't need to do anything because it will do underground. So, and after that, you apply the plugin Protobuf, and then you this is the plugin, and there are some tutorials said about this. Yeah. So there is an important point that you should remember. You see that the red line here, I'm using the Protobuf 3.2.0, and your Protobuf compiler must be suitable with the server Protobuf compiler. That means from one Protobuf file you generate the code, and the Protobuf compiler everywhere must be compatible. If you know about the server, that means that the 1.2.3 that name server, we will know the compatible. So the compiler here, the version here must be compatible. For example, if on the server I generated the model file by using 2.1.0, for example, this will not work with this line because there are those Protobuf compiler is not compatible. So you add your Protobuf into the proto directory, something in this image. So, and in the final step, you are using that. Firstly, you define the GRPC server here. It will have the host and port, and you define the stub here. The stub is the word I say many things ago. The stub, and then you define the message. You set the data, and then you get the result here. So I will demo some in the real code. So here is my Ruby server. I'm calling, I will run the Ruby server. So we had a server GRPC running in Ruby, and this is my code. So it is just a simple code that calling the GRPC server, we define the host and port, and we call that, and after that the server will return the message. We will bring it down. For example, we will call this. So we see that we bring out the message from the server, and on the server side we see that they have received a layer. That's the short demo between the Ruby server and Ruby Lion. So and this is the code for the Android thing. So I just had a simple demo. So as I said before, this code is directly on the presentation. You define the stub. The stub means that you define the host and port and the stub method. Why I have said many times why does mean stub method, because we call like the local, but actually it will call network behind. So we set the request here, and we connect, and then we call another method, and then we get the message and return. Let's run that. So, for example, this from server, and here is on Lion on the server. You will see the server receive the data. One is the Android name and ID. It calling from the Lion to the server. That is a simple demo. So actually, there are 4 type methods when you define the method in the service. The firstly is a simple GRPC code. That means that the client will send a request and get the response. The second thing is the server-side streaming. That means you send a request and the server will send you the stream data, and you will get the stream data until it finishes. Then the third is the client-side streaming. That means the client will send the stream data until it finishes, and server will process that. And four is the bi-directional streaming. That is a 4 way. So there are many other things in the GRPC. For example, that GRPC support interceptor. That means you can write an interceptor for hooking before and after the request, before and after the response, and modify something. And it supports some types of authentication, SSL, DSL, token based. So you can get more about this or read directly on the document on GRPC website. And I also push the slides and code on this GitHub repository. You can go here and take a look. So, do you, anyone have any questions?
Em nghĩ cái này về chip lâu lắm. Nó chạy nãy giờ 5
I have a question that when we put an method on server Android application, so which thread is there is blocked with UI or?
Yes, now question. GRPC, there are two types called asynchronous code and asynchronous code. So if you call asynchronous code, you must code on the subthread, not on UI thread. But if you call on the asynchronous code, then you have a callback, that's okay. And here, in my demo, I'm using the asyntax because I'm using the asynchronous code. There are two types.
So another question that when we working on Android development, when we work with the Restful Service, we have the library is any library support GRPC right now?
What do you mean library? What do you want to serve?
The library, the high level code that simplify what we work with the REST service or?
Actually, it's very simplified. For example, why do we use retrofit? Because it returns the RESTful from the server, and before the retrofit, before the something such as retrofit or many other libraries, you must batch by hand. For example, you get the string concatenation offset, get look through the and guess the key value, and you batch into the true data type. So retrofit and other libraries support that, but in the RPC, everything like already supported. For example, let me show you. For example here, I get a message here. So I get the response here, and response can get message. Here, this is the generated cost, and everything is sent in your model file. That means that it batch automatically. For example, you return the response, in that response has a name string, and there are the years data type integer, they will batch automatically to the true data type. Yes. So you don't need any other libraries.
So how we use error as no internet connection?
Can you repeat again?
How we do with error?
Yes, just because the code is that the local code, you only check the response here. For example, if that error that you have response error cost, something like that, or error message. Yeah, you deal with that like local code. So you see here, I define the blocking stop here. That means the thing you already asked me. because there are two ways of code in GRPC, asynchronous and synchronous. This is synchronous code. So, any other questions?
You mentioned that GRPC for
Yes.
So once it's the model case, once it is combined, the new version of the model,
Yes.
you will demonstrate aspects. Yet for property for the user. And the Android application needs to combine the model.
Yes. Okay, I will have a short demo for you. But firstly, because this demo show the server code and the line code, you separated Protobuf file. So for example here, so let's assume that we modify something here. Let's assume that we modify something here. For example, the connect method convert back to we add more. I change the method name. So I will combine this. For example, I will pass to this. Yeah. In the real world, this should not be done because we should put the Protobuf file in the centralized repository, not like this. Yeah. So after that, we will combine. You will see. No, you should maintain the field here. So it will be. You should maintain for that. It will always make compatible with old version. So after I combine, you see that it is wrong because the connect is not here anymore. We call connect here. This is a new method. And if I run this, it will fail because I haven't combined on the server side. Yeah. So I will call, for example, I will call. It will be failed. So for example, yeah, it will be failed. But if I combine, because the Protobuf file here on the server is not combined yet, so I will find command line for combine. I have push here. Yeah. So you just copy here and combine that. And then you run again server. And then you call the method. Hopefully it will work. Hopefully. So and I said before, because I combine this file on the server, you must always make sure your Protobuf compiler compatible between the Lion server and other service. For example, here I will check my version. Here is 3.3.2, and so in my code here I use 3.3.0. It will be okay. You must always keep in this. If the version here is not compatible, you will call and it will be fail. And it's very hard for debugging this. Any other questions? So if there is no questions, I will end my presentation. And if there are a rebel here, I push to my account. You can get that and get the running cost, and you also send me an email if you have any questions about GRPC. My email is here. You can get that and send me the email. I will reply. Okay, thank you for your listening and attend to the last presentation in today.